ExamPrep.School. Alaska Surplus Lines Insurance Broker Exam. Exam code InsAK-Surplus82 or OPSurplus82. There are 6 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Laws, rules, and regulations. Surplus lines. Evidence of insurance, notices, and contract validity. Surplus lines, placement and eligibility. Surplus lines, reporting, records, and association. Surplus lines, service of process, definitions and license actions. Surplus lines, taxes, filing fee, and penalties. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Under Alaska Statute AS 21.27.200, which of the following actions falls within the scope of the Director of Insurance's examination powers? A. Seize an insurer's assets without prior judicial approval. B. Administer oaths and compel witnesses to testify. C. Assess administrative fines during the course of an examination. D. Immediately revoke a license upon finding a single regulatory violation. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. The Director's Examination Authority under AS 21.2700 includes administering oaths, examining records, and compelling testimony, but does not permit asset seizure without court order, on-the-spot fines, or automatic license revocation. Reason A is not correct. Asset seizure requires a court order and is not part of the Director's direct examination powers. Reason C is not correct. Administrative fines are imposed through separate enforcement proceedings, not during examinations. Reason D is not correct. License revocation is a formal disciplinary action, not an immediate examination function. Question 2. An Alaska surplus lines broker advertised a policy as covering earthquake damage when the policy explicitly excluded it, and also repeatedly delayed remitting premiums to the insurer. Under Alaska statutes governing insurance licensing, which action most directly constitutes grounds for the Director of Insurance to issue a cease and desist order against the broker? A. Making a material misrepresentation of policy coverage terms. B. Issuing advertisements without including the required stamping legend. C. Failing to file quarterly surplus lines reports on time. D. Charging a commission rate higher than the statutory maximum. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that making a material misrepresentation of policy coverage terms is expressly listed as an unfair trade practice and grounds for a cease and desist order under Alaska insurance law. Reason B is not correct. Advertising without a stamping legend violates documentation requirements but is not a listed basis for a cease and desist order. Reason C is not correct. Late reporting incurs administrative penalties but does not alone trigger a cease and desist order. Reason D is not correct. Overcharging commissions may lead to disciplinary action but is not specifically cited as grounds for issuing a cease and desist order. Question 3. The Alaska Director of Insurance proposes a new regulation requiring surplus lines brokers to submit electronic records within 30 days. Before final adoption under the Alaska Administrative Procedure Act, which step must be completed? A. Publish notice of the proposed regulation in a newspaper of general circulation and allow public comment. B. Obtain formal approval from the Alaska State Legislature. C. Implement the regulation immediately upon the Director's signature. D. Issue an emergency order to bypass public hearing requirements. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that the APA requires publication of notice in a newspaper of general circulation with a public comment period before final adoption of a regulation. Reason B is not correct. Legislative approval is not required for administrative regulation under Alaska law. Reason C is not correct. Immediate implementation without notice violates procedural requirements for rulemaking. Reason D is not correct. Emergency orders apply only in immediate threat situations and do not replace the standard rulemaking process. Question 4. Under Alaska statutes, which of the following best describes a non-admitted insurer? A. An insurer that holds a certificate of authority to transact all lines of insurance in Alaska. B. An insurer incorporated in another state that holds a surplus lines license in Alaska. C. An insurer organized under the laws of Alaska with limited authority for specialty risks. D. An insurer that has not obtained a certificate of authority but may provide coverage through surplus lines. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is that a non-admitted insurer has not obtained a certificate of authority but may provide coverage through surplus lines under Alaska law. Reason A is not correct. An insurer holding a certificate of authority is admitted, not non-admitted. Reason B is not correct. An insurer incorporated elsewhere holding a surplus lines license may still be admitted if certified. Reason C is not correct. An insurer organized under Alaska law with authority is admitted, not non-admitted. Question 5. According to Alaska insurance definitions, an alien insurer is one that A. Is organized or incorporated under the laws of any other U.S. state. B. Holds a certificate of authority but is domiciled outside the United States. C. Is organized or incorporated under the laws of a country other than the United States. D. Is organized under Alaska law but writes only surplus lines business. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that an alien insurer is organized or incorporated under the laws of a country other than the United States. Reason A is not correct. An insurer organized in another U.S. state is considered foreign, not alien. Reason B is not correct. Holding a certificate of authority does not determine alien status. Domicile outside the U.S. alone isn't sufficient. Reason D is not correct. An insurer organized under Alaska law is domestic regardless of lines written. Question 6. A surplus lines broker headquartered in Oregon emails a marine cargo policy form to a seafood exporter in Juneau, Alaska for review. No prior communications occurred between the parties. Under Alaska insurance law, which of the broker's actions constitutes transacting insurance within Alaska requiring an Alaska surplus lines license? A. Reviewing and processing a claim under the existing marine cargo policy. B. Hosting a video conference to answer general questions about cargo loading procedures. C. Presenting an overview of Alaska insurance regulations at a public seminar. D. Emailing the proposed marine cargo policy form directly to the exporter in Juneau. The correct answer is D. Under Alaska law, transacting insurance includes making or proposing contracts, and emailing a proposed policy form to an Alaskan insured constitutes proposing a contract, thus transacting insurance. Reason A is not correct. Handling a claim under an existing policy involves post-contract services rather than proposing or making a new contract. Reason B is not correct. Answering general operational questions about cargo loading procedures is advisory and does not involve proposing or making an insurance contract. Reason C is not correct. Providing a public seminar on regulations is educational and not a proposal or negotiation of insurance coverage. Question 7. According to Alaska insurance regulations, initial resident insurance producer applicants must complete a minimum number of pre-licensing education hours, including a specified portion dedicated to ethics. Identify the required total pre-licensing hours and the minimum ethics hours. A. 18 total hours with at least 2 hours of ethics training. B. 25 total hours with at least 4 hours of ethics training. C. 20 total hours with at least 3 hours of ethics training. D. 24 total hours with at least 3 hours of ethics training. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is 20 total hours with at least 3 hours of ethics training, as specified by Alaska statute for initial resident producer licensing. Reason A is not correct. The total hours are below the required minimum, and the ethics hours fall short of the specified amount. Reason B is not correct. The total and ethics hours exceed the statutory requirement for initial licensing. Reason D is not correct. Although the ethics hours match, the total pre-licensing hours exceed the state requirement. Question 8. Under Alaska's non-resident licensing reciprocity provisions, a non-resident insurance producer applicant may have the Alaska examination requirement waived upon submission of which of the following? A. A certification from the home state verifying that the producer's license is in good standing. B. Evidence of having held a substantially similar producer license in home jurisdiction for at least 24 months. C. Proof of completion of Alaska's pre-licensing education requirement. D. Documentation of passing the home state licensing examination within the past 12 months. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is the certification from the home state confirming that the producer's license is in good standing, which is the statutory requirement for the examination waiver. Reason B is not correct. The duration of prior licensure is not specified as a condition for the examination waiver. Reason C is not correct. Completion of Alaska's pre-licensing education is not required to obtain the waiver under reciprocity provisions. Reason D is not correct. There is no requirement regarding the timing of passing the home state exam for the waiver. Question 9. Tim, an Alaska surplus lines broker, is preparing to renew his license by December 31st. Over the last 2-year period, he has completed 18 continuing education credit hours, including 2 hours of ethics, and plans to complete the remaining hours through self-study. According to Alaska requirements, which obligation must Tim satisfy for his CE to qualify for license renewal? A. Ensure that no more than 6 of the remaining credit hours are earned through self-study. B. Complete at least 30 credit hours, including 5 credit hours in ethics, for surplus lines license renewal. C. Complete at least 24 credit hours of approved continuing education, including at least 3 credit hours in ethics. D. Submit an affidavit documenting completed CE and payment 30 days before license expiration. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that the broker must complete at least 24 total credit hours of approved continuing education, including a minimum of 3 credit hours in ethics, to satisfy Alaska's biennial renewal requirements. Reason A is not correct. The self-study limit in Alaska is higher than 6 hours and applies to only a portion of the total requirement. Reason B is not correct. Alaska requires 24 credit hours, not 30, and only 3 ethics hours are mandated. Reason D is not correct. An affidavit of completed CE must be submitted within 30 days after renewal, not before expiration. Question 10. A surplus lines broker's license expired on December 31st. By April 30th, within 1 year of expiration, the broker submitted the renewal application and paid all required fees and late penalties, but has not yet fulfilled the required continuing education credits. Under Alaska law governing license lapse, reinstatement, and late renewal provisions, what accurately describes the broker's licensing status? A. License is automatically reinstated upon payment of fees and penalties, allowing business until CE is completed. B. License remains inactive until the required continuing education credits are submitted and approved, after which reinstatement occurs. C. Broker must reapply as a new applicant, including passing the licensing exam, because the renewal was late. D. Broker may continue transacting surplus lines business during a CE cure period despite the license lapse. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that the license remains inactive until all continuing education requirements are met and approved. Although fees and penalties were paid within 1 year of expiration, Alaska law requires completion of CE before reinstatement. Reason A is not correct. Payment alone doesn't satisfy the CE requirement, so the license isn't reinstated until credits are approved. Reason C is not correct. Because the renewal was submitted within 1 year, a new application and exam are not required. Reason D is not correct. A lapsed license cannot be used to transact business even during a CE cure period. Question 11. Under Alaska statutes governing unfair trade practices, which of the following actions by an insurer most clearly constitutes the prohibited practice of rebating? A. Paying a standard commission to the producer in accordance with the agency contract. B. Returning a portion of the paid premium to the policyholder after policy issuance. C. Waiving the policy deductible for a first-time claim without additional premium. D. Offering a multi-policy discount in line with published rate schedules. The correct answer is B. Returning part of the premium to the policyholder is a classic example of rebating, as it constitutes an inducement not specified in the policy and is expressly prohibited under Alaska law. The other options reflect permissible practices or discounts outlined in policy terms or rate filings. Reason A is not correct. This is a contractual commission payment, which is allowed under agency agreements and not a rebate to the insured. Reason C is not correct. Waiving a deductible is an adjustment of policy terms rather than an inducement of extra value beyond what is filed. Reason D is not correct. A discount applied according to published multi-policy rate schedules is a legitimate rate reduction, not an illicit rebate. Question 12. A surplus lines broker convinced a client to surrender an existing whole life insurance policy and purchase a nearly identical new policy. The broker emphasized lower initial premiums and higher commission potential, but did not disclose that the new policy reduced guaranteed cash value accumulation. Under Alaska law, this practice primarily violates which prohibition? A. Misrepresentation of financial ratings. B. Churning. C. Rebating. D. Twisting. The correct answer is D. This scenario describes knowingly withholding or misrepresenting policy details to induce replacement of an existing policy, which is defined as twisting under Alaska statute. Reason A is not correct. Misrepresentation of financial ratings concerns insurer solvency or stability, not misstatement of policy features to induce replacement. Reason B is not correct. Churning involves excessive transactions on the same policy to generate commissions, not misrepresentation to replace it. Reason C is not correct. Rebating refers to offering unauthorized inducements or premiums discounts, not misleading about policy benefits. Question 13. In marketing a surplus lines property insurance policy, a broker distributed promotional materials stating that the policy included automatic debris removal coverage up to 10% of the limit. The broker was aware that the standard policy form did not include this coverage. Under Alaska's unfair trade practices regulations, the broker's conduct most directly violates which prohibition? A. Twisting. B. Misrepresentation of policy terms. C. Rebating. D. Unfair discrimination. The correct answer is B. The broker knowingly made false statements about coverage features in promotional materials, constituting a misrepresentation of policy terms under Alaska law. Reason A is not correct. Twisting refers to inducing a policy replacement through a misrepresentation of benefits, not false marketing of coverage under an existing policy. Reason C is not correct. Rebating involves offering unauthorized inducements or premiums returns, not misstating policy provisions. Reason D is not correct. Unfair discrimination relates to rating or underwriting unfairness, not inaccurate statements about coverage features. Question 14. A surplus lines broker emailed several commercial clients claiming that InsureCo, a state-licensed insurer, was insolvent and under investigation by the Department of Insurance. The broker refused to provide any documentary evidence or identify sources when asked to substantiate the claim. The broker later argued that the statements were merely opinions based on financial trends rather than factual assertions. A. The statements were non-actionable opinion based on financial trends. B. The statements were made without actual malice because the broker believed them to be true. C. The statements were privileged communications to a regulatory agency. D. The statements were substantially true in the context of insurers' public filings. The correct answer is C. This option is correct because the broker's comments were directed to private clients and not made in any proceeding or forum covered by an absolute or qualified privilege under Alaska defamation law. Reason A is not correct. Non-actionable opinion must be clearly identified as subjective judgment, whereas the broker presented the insolvency claim as fact. Reason B is not correct. A good faith belief defense fails if the broker made no effort to verify accuracy or consult reliable sources. Reason D is not correct. A truth defense is unavailable because the broker offered no evidence that the insurer was actually insolvent. Question 15. Under Alaska surplus lines regulations, for how many years must a broker retain records of fiduciary trust accounts holding client premium funds? A. 5 years. B. 3 years. C. 7 years. D. 10 years. The correct answer is A. Alaska Statute 21.34 requires surplus lines brokers to keep trust account records for at least 5 years from the date of the last transaction to ensure proper auditing and regulatory review. Reason B is not correct. 3 years is shorter than the statutory minimum retention period required for surplus lines trust accounts under Alaska law. Reason C is not correct. 7 years exceeds the required retention period. Alaska law sets a 5-year minimum. Reason D is not correct. 10 years is longer than necessary. The statute specifies a 5-year retention period. Question 16. On June 15th, a licensed Alaska surplus lines broker collects a $50,000 premium from an insured for a non-admitted insurer. According to Alaska's surplus lines regulations on fiduciary duties and premium handling, by what date must the broker remit the full premium to the insurer or managing general agent? A. July 30th of the same year. B. August 15th of the same year. C. August 14th of the same year. D. July 31st of the same year. The correct answer is D. Alaska law requires brokers to remit premiums by the last calendar day of the month following receipt. Premium received June 15th is due by July 31st. Reason A is not correct. July 30th is 1 day short of the required end-of-month deadline. Reason B is not correct. August 15th reflects a 30-day count from receipt instead of remittance by month end. Reason C is not correct. August 14th assumes a 30-day period after receipt rather than end of the next month. Question 17. According to Alaska Statute AS 21.34-U20, which document must a surplus lines broker maintain to evidence a diligent search of admitted insurers? A. A log listing each admitted carrier contacted, including date, method of contact, representative's name, and reason for declination. B. A certification from the Home State Insurer Association confirming the exporter insurer's ineligibility. C. An aggregated premium tax report summarizing all attempted placements with the departing carriers. D. A copy of the insured's financial statement demonstrating eligibility as an exempt commercial purchaser. The correct answer is A. The statute requires brokers to keep a detailed market search log showing each admitted insurer contacted, date and method of contact, person spoken to, and reason for declination to demonstrate compliance with diligent search requirements. Reason B is not correct. Certification from the Home State Association does not fulfill the requirement to document individual contacts with admitted insurers. Reason C is not correct. An aggregated premium tax report does not provide the specific contact details needed to show diligent search efforts. Reason D is not correct. The insured's financial statement is unrelated to documenting attempts to place coverage with admitted carriers. Question 18. A surplus lines broker contacted 5 authorized insurers for a high-value commercial property account. The producer received a standardized form faxed listing insurer names and a check mark next to decline, but lacking insurer letterhead or signature. Which of the following describes acceptable evidence of declinations from authorized insurers? A. A spreadsheet summarizing insurer names, dates contacted, and numeric codes indicating declinations. B. Standardized faxed form without insurer letterhead or authorized signature indicating declination. C. Email replies from underwriting staff that reference internal file numbers but lack a clear declination statement. D. Individual letters on insurer letterhead, dated and signed by an authorized insurer representative. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is based on requirements that declinations must be official communications from authorized insurers, documented on insurer letterhead, dated and signed by an authorized representative to satisfy diligent search evidentiary standards. Reason A is not correct. A broker-generated spreadsheet is not an official insurer declination document and fails evidentiary requirements. Reason B is not correct. A form lacking insurer letterhead and authorized signature does not meet the requirement for an official declination. Reason C is not correct. An informal email without a formal declination statement from an authorized representative does not satisfy the evidentiary standard. Question 19. A surplus lines broker identifies a specialty casualty risk included on the Alaska export list. Under Alaska law, how may the broker proceed regarding diligent effort requirements? A. Contact at least one other authorized insurer in addition to using the export list. B. Waive the requirement to solicit authorized insurers and document the export list reference. C. Obtain written declinations from at least 2 authorized insurers before placement. D. Submit the risk to the Surplus Lines Association for an exemption determination. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that the Alaska export list allows brokers to bypass soliciting authorized insurers when the risk is listed, provided the broker documents the export list reference in the placement file. Reason A is not correct. No additional insurer contacts are required once the risk class appears on the export list. Reason C is not correct. Written declinations are not required for risks listed on the export list. Reason D is not correct. An exemption determination by the Surplus Lines Association is not required for export list risks. Question 20. A surplus lines broker is placing a cyber liability policy for a large Alaska-based client with an insurer appearing on the state's export list. The insured requires both third-party liability coverage and a specialized first-party breach response endorsement not typically included in standard forms. Under Alaska law, in which circumstance must the broker still conduct a diligent market inquiry despite the insurer being on the export list? A. When any portion of the insured's operations is located outside Alaska. B. When the insured qualifies as an exempt commercial purchaser. C. When the requested coverage includes a specialized first-party breach response endorsement not offered by export list insurers. D. When the insurer is already listed on the state export list at the time of placement. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that a broker must still conduct a market inquiry when the coverage requested includes a specialized endorsement that export list insurers do not typically offer. Export list placement waives the diligent search requirement only for standard coverages available from listed insurers. Reason A is not correct. The geographic location of operations does not negate export list placement relief for covered policy forms. Reason B is not correct. Exempt commercial purchaser status affects eligibility reporting, not the need for market inquiry under export list relief. Reason D is not correct. An insurer's presence on the export list normally removes the need for further inquiry for standard policy forms. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below. We read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.